Hello, welcome back. This is part 2 of modeling a weapon. So let's go ahead and get started on this. I'm going to click on the cube and I'm going to move this down. And we're going to go ahead and add a couple subdivisions to this while we're at it. Let's go ahead and do 4 subdivisions. That's not what I want. Let's go ahead and do 4 on depth. Here we go. And then we're going to go ahead and squash this down. Actually, let's go ahead and scale this down because it's going to do proportionate uniform scaling. And then when we get to a certain size, here we go. And we can scale down this way. Let's kind of look at it, see what we got. That looks about right. Trigger width. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and set it in the middle. And let's go ahead and move these vertices around. Again, I'm going to rotate these vertices and pull them in to the mesh. Okay, so that seems to be like a straight line. We'll do a little bit of a curve here. There we go. And we'll move that over to right about there so we get this curvature. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let's move that up. Move that in. Let's go ahead and continue working on this. So right now we're going to go ahead and go to face mode, select this face, and then hold the control key and deselect this part so we have the face selected. Okay. And so we're going to go ahead and extrude that. And when you extrude, just control E and then move that arrow back. And what we're going to do is we're not going to scale it up. We could in that direction. But I prefer moving vertices around because when you scale things, sometimes you forget that you can scale it uniformly and scale it in other axes that you don't want to. So I'm going to go Control E again, move that, Control E again, and then just move that. There we go. So I'm going to go into the vertex mode and just move this section up and this section up, and this will go into this part and eventually go into this part here. Okay, there we go. Alright, so we got that section in there. Let's go ahead and deselect that. We have a cube section at the bottom, so let's go click on the cube again. And this will be a section in here. And let's see how wide that cube is. Let's go ahead and scale that in like that. That looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and move those vertices. And let's move these up. And let's move these down like that. Kind of give this and move these down here like that. Let's move this up so it kind of crosses over into this. And I'm going to cross that over into that as well. Get that part in there. Here we go. Something like that would work really good. See how that looks in here. Alright, so when I look in the gun, I see that pretty flat. So I think what I want to do is I want to select these vertices here, and these aren't going to be as round, so I'm going to go ahead, even though I like the way that shape looks, we might keep it, but I'm going to move that down so it kind of covers that part here really well. Okay. Now if I do want to continue with that adding that, then I'm going to have to go into this piece right here, and I might just do that. I like this, the way that looks. I kind of like that coming down a little bit from the side view. If I go to the side view, you can see that. If I go to shading and turn that X-ray off, I kind of like how that silhouette is looking. It looks, kind of gives it a more three-dimensional look instead of being so flat. So I think with that said, I could bring it up a little bit or bring that down a little bit. And if I go into perspective mode, I can kind of look at what's happening here. I do like that. I do like how that looks. It's not perfectly flat and square looking. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to add an edge loop here to the center. So I'm going to go to edge loop here, go to the top view, and I guess I really can't do it from the top view. Let's go from the perspective view. And let's try to get that to the center, as centered as I possibly can. Okay, something like that. Looks pretty good. Go to the top views, go ahead and select that object. Hit the Q key, select that object, there we go. And then go to the top view, and you can see that I'm off a little bit. So I'm going to go in here, right click over and go to vertex mode and snap it. There we go. And what I'll do now is I'll just move these vertices up to kind of follow the rest of the edge. So you can see what I'm doing here. Whoops. Turn off grid snap. Grid snap's still on. And just kind of follow that edge. I'm going to hit wireframe on shade. I think I turned that off. There we go. So now I can see where my wireframe is and move that up a little bit like that. There we go. That looks pretty good. I like that. Might even do that with this piece right here as well. Just keep that three-dimensional feel that I've got going on here with this piece. So I will do that with that one as well. So I'm going to click on that, go into edge loop mode, and just go ahead and click on an edge loop right here. I don't have to be dramatic with it or anything like that. So with that edge loop, you can see that now I've got that piece. I can move that piece into this other piece. So I'm going to go to the side view, hit the Q key to turn the tool off, and then I'm going to intersect these two pieces there like that, and maybe even move it down and in. There we go. So that looks pretty good. Let's take a look at what we have so far. I'm going to select this edge. Let's go to wireframe mode, and on edge mode. So I'm going to move that edge down, but I don't want to move the rest of the edges down. So I'm actually going to use this lasso tool, hold down the control key, and I'm going to select all these edge loops around here, deselect those, and that will just leave that edge loop there. So when I move it down, I can just move that. Oops, I guess it didn't deselect those, so I'm going to hold the control key down, deselect those, and then move these down. Whoops, still didn't do it. Control, control, control. It still wants to do that. So I guess I'm just going to select the vertices. So this is a way I can do that. If you have problems with that, I'm going to go back into object mode. Okay, let's just select object mode. And with this, because everything's kind of in my way, I can put it in layers, but what would be faster, and I probably should put it in layers, but what would be faster would be to just isolate that. So to isolate it, I'm going to go control 1. Control 1, control plus 1, okay, hold the control key down and then hit the 1 key, and that will cycle back and forth between isolation, or if you want to call it hiding, okay? So you can do that back and forth, which is really kind of handy. So I'm going to isolate that, And then I'm going to just select the vertices that I need to select, okay? And select those vertices, hit the Q key because that manipulator is kind of getting in the way. There we go. So now I can just move that down. So I can go Control 1 again and hit the W key and move those down like that. So I can just kind of give it some more shape to it. There we go. Kind of following the rest of the model, which is kind of cool. Right, great. We'll keep this flat for now. Okay, that looks really good, like that. Alright, so far so good. And then we're going to do the trigger bolt. And you know, we can, I guess, we got a little artistic leeway here with how we want to model the trigger, right? Well, we know what a trigger looks like. We can kind of see it over here. Alright, so no, we can't see it. Not in that one. Let's see if we can find one that has the trigger. That's a little hard to see. You can kind of see it right in there. Okay, so we'll do just kind of a generic trigger. Let's go in here and go back in here, and let's go ahead and do, again, we're just going to do a cube, right? Let's go ahead and scale it down. Here we go. And move it into place. We'll have to get a little bit closer. Alright, so move that into place, and we'll widen that out a little bit. There we go. Okay, we'll just move that up. Alright, and we're going to go ahead face mode, select this face right here, and I'm going to hold the control key and deselect the rest, and that will just select that one face. I don't have to go into perspective, don't have to think about it. Control E, and I'm going to move that down. Okay, now I'm just gonna, I can rotate this as well as I'm doing this, right? And just move it into place a little bit. Now this trigger looks a little thick to me, so I'll make adjustments right now before I go any further, and just move that in. That trigger looks a little thick to me, so I'm gonna go back in there and just kind of move that around, and go back into face mode. What's really nice is that it remembers that I had that face selected. Control E again, and move that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is I am going to scale that in using the green as I go down. Control E, move, and scale that in again as we get closer to the bottom. Okay. And Control E, move that, and then scale that in. Okay. So I'm going to go back, Control Z back. Here we go. Let me see if I can move that. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, Control E, get that manipulator again. That's kind of nice to have. And scale that in, Control E, move, and scale that in. There we go. So something like that. So I'm going to go to vertex mode. Select this guy right here, these guys together. And rotate, like that, and move. Okay. Rotate, and this trigger is really curved. I really don't want that to happen, so I think we're gonna just kind of pull that back just a little bit to make it look a little more realistic, I think. Let's move that over like that. There we go. Something like this would be better, I believe. Again, we have some artistic liberties here, which I'm going to use to its potential. Let's close that in a little bit. There we go. I'll move that up a little bit like that. And that still might be too much. Let's take a look at it. That looks pretty good. I like that. That will work. That gives you enough room for your finger and to pull the trigger. Okay. Thickness wise, I think we're okay there too as well. Triggers they're a little flat. Let's go ahead and squish it just a little bit more. There we go. And as we go down, we need to squish it this way too as well. So I'm going to select these, okay, and then I'm going to squish it down just a little bit, and then select these and then squish it down just a little bit more, and select those and squish those a little bit more, and then select these until we get to a point where we have just the very bottom ones. There we go. And so you can see it tapers down. So I'm getting a taper effect on here as we go down. Okay? And the bottom one should be just fine. There we go. So that taper effect. That looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. And now back it out a little bit to check it out. Okay. So now we need just that piece right here that comes out and down. Question is that round? I mean, is it like round all the way around? Well, it looks like it is. But, so do we do a cylinder? Let's do a cylinder. I think that's my cylinder. Do 12 instead of 8. And go ahead and rotate and scale that into place again. And I might edit that out. I don't know. Okay, now let's go ahead and move that into place. Let's see how this fits now in there. There we go. So let's go ahead and scale that down. So it looks like it needs to be about the size, a scale of the object itself. So I got to be careful not to go beyond that. So let's go right into that. Here we go, like that. And does it go all the way forward? No, there's a gap there. So let's go ahead and cut that off. So go to face mode and just select these faces and delete it. There we go. And we can move this vertex into here. That. Okay. There we go. So there's that part. That looks pretty good. Okay, so far so good. So we're doing okay there. I think for a low poly, I think I do want to add some kind of edge to this. So I normally don't do this until the very end. In fact, I probably shouldn't, because we need to keep that pretty low poly. And we got a couple other pieces we need to think about what we want to do. It almost looks like this piece is kind of goes into the back, which would give it more dimension. I like that. So let's go ahead and do that. Just click on the vertices here on the back. Select all of these. Okay, and go to the back here. And let's scale that in. Like this. Okay. Here we go. So we get that kind of scaled in. That part there. Kind of like that. That looks a little bit, gives it a little more dimension. There we go. Something like that would work really nice. Okay. We can always do more too. Alright, cool. Looking good so far. Got a couple more pieces. Alright, to finish this off, so I'm going to go up to a cube again and scale this down and move this up. Alright, so let's go ahead and here, and let's get this piece right up here. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It looks like the sight, like a sight or something for the top. Let's go ahead and get that in there though. Alright, so there's the sight. We want to move it down into the mesh. There we go. That's good. And we want to scale that in. I'm assuming that will work really good. So I'm going to do the top pretty narrow. And then I'm going to do Control 1. Hold the Control key and then the 1 key and then isolate that. I'm going to select the bottom vertices like that. Control 1 again, and scale that out a little bit, like that. There we go. I like that. Something like that will work really nicely. If I go too far, we'll go back up into the gun. That's about as far as we can go. It looks good. Okay. Looks like we need to move these vertices on top a little bit higher. So we're matching these two here. Okay. Let's go to wireframe here and see how we're matching the top two. Okay. Here's the front. Here's the back. So we need to match these a little bit better. Okay. We need to match the width too as well. We got a little bit wider here. I suppose I could take this down a little bit more, scale it down a little bit, kind of do two things here. So I'm going to do the marquee select right here, the lasso tool, lasso around these vertices very carefully, so I only select those. Go to perspective view, and I need to do that here, and I'm going to scale these down. So to scale them down a bit, so they match from the top view. Let's look at these perspectively. So we match those pretty closely. I think that's matched up real good. Just double checking here. Alright, that looks pretty good. I like that. Okay, and then I might just go into these, just marquee select these guys right here, and just barely from the top view, just move those in just a little bit so we get a nice little round area there. That looks pretty good. I like that. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Now we need to kind of refine what we have here at the end. Okay. So to refine that, I'm going to go into the vertex mode and go to the end here and just refine that a little bit more, give it a little more depth. So I'm going to scale that in a little bit like that. That's going to be real nice. I like that. Scale that in a little bit. We have artistic freedom here on this part, so I'm going to go ahead and use that to my advantage, add more depth to it, to the model. Alright, so let's go ahead and we've done a lot of work so far blocking this out. Looks pretty good. I'm going to select everything, and I think we need to go ahead and save it. I've saved it a couple of times. Hopefully you guys have done the same thing. Save it a lot, save often, especially when you see me go a long stretch. You need to save your work. Okay, that's really important, to save your work as much as you possibly can. Alright, so there we have it. Let's go ahead and edit, delete by type history. Okay, now you can do it easily up here, right? So you can click on that and freeze transformations on everything. There we go. So now if I move stuff, I can go ahead and go back. Alright, so we got most of the pieces finished. We need to do the front plate and the little trigger here. So again, we got a couple more pieces to do. Okay. And scale that down. Position that into place. Make that a little bit bigger here. Move the vertices around. Move this down like that. Move this over. Something like that. And and just kind of click off and click on these guys here and go ahead and scale that in, kind of more like a site here. And we probably don't need to have as much here. So I'm going to select that piece again and kind of do a quick Control 1 and just make sure I get all the vertices selected that I want, and I'm going to bring that in just a little bit. I'm going to do Control 1 again. There we go. Alright, so I need to model that plate. We're running on about 30 minutes here.